Good morning, heckling fandom. Are you panicking and sweating about who to add to your roster through waiver wires for the fantasy playoffs tonight? Don't worry, heckling fandom. We're here to help you. It's time for garbage time. Guys, welcome into Garbage Time Fantasy Football. We have this special morning edition of the show because, playoffs are right around the corner and you need all day to get those waivers in. How are you doing this morning, Ryan?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic considering most of my teams aren't in the playoffs because fantasy football is a hard sport to do. And that's also because I just play with you guys. So we'll let you give your opinions on it considering most of your teams are in the playoffs this year in our leagues.
Dude, you slept on all my players. I told you would break out this year. You didn't want to agree with me, so you just stayed away from them.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. All the advice I gave out to everyone else helped them make their fantasy playoffs in my family and all the friends and everyone that listens to the show, but I can't in our league. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's the classic. You got to learn to take your own advice, man.
Yeah, no, and I'm not taking my own biased advice, I guess. So just listen to my advice and you will get into the fantasy championship game. Guys, if you like what you hear on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, make sure to like and subscribe to the show here on YouTube. Leave your comments down below too, and we will get to those. We are very interactive with the heckling fandom, and we will help you out. You can listen to us in audio formats on Apple, Spotify, Google, Pandora, Amazon, Iheartradio, Tunein, and anywhere else podcasts are in audio format. Watch us live on Twitch and Twitter, and make sure to leave us voicemails at www.garbagetimef.com. And Ryan, quiz of every episode. How do you get this Gridiron Miles Sanders card, a guy that's going to help win a lot of fantasy championships this year?
Yeah, you got to like and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a review on Apple, preferably 5 stars if you'd like. And then comment saying that you've joined the heckling fandom. Hashtag Ron, where are you?
Ghost of Ron Seymour, where are you? Heckling fandom, if you'd put a bolo out on a Ron Seymour, we would really like to appreciate that. We have been missing a host for quite a while, and we'd really like him back if that's the case. So keep an eye out for him. Maybe we'll just send that card to your house and you return him to us. Ryan, without further ado, you ready to get into the waivers?
Let's do it.
Actually, before we do that, just one more thing I want to talk about really quick. So thoughts on this. Obviously, for the fantasy playoffs, you have to structure your roster correctly. So I wanted to go over this for just a minute. Describe for me your thoughts on cuffs at the running back position and adding second defenses for decent matchups. Is that something that you do for your fantasy rosters during championship playoff runs?
For defenses, yeah. Like if I look ahead and see that my defense is facing one of the high-powered offenses in the next 3 weeks, I'm going out and I'm trying to stash one. And then as far as handcuffs go, I think you're really looking for the high-end ones, like or if you can't get it. If you can't get it, or if your starting running back doesn't have like a high-end handcuff, you're kind of at least trying to snag one of those running backs that have low-end RB2 value or flex value.
And what's your thoughts on going a little bit dirty for the fantasy playoffs and potentially targeting players that you think your opponent may want for those matchups? Have you ever gone out and done that?
Oh, I do that all the time. Yeah, definitely. Or you could be like we just talked about him, our lovely Ron Seymour. And during this waiver wire that we talk about, you could be that guy that just picks up everybody and goes over your roster limit. You can do that too.
Yeah, and then just go, I woke up late and didn't see it.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, didn't see it. I guess the commissioner will just have to fix it for me.
Who knew you had to keep an eye on your IRs?
You hear that, Christian? That's what your next voicemail needs to be about. We need an update on your league in the playoffs and what you think about that for Ron Seymour. Yeah, now, sure. Ryan, are you ready to get into the waivers?
Yes.
Let's do it. All right, let's talk about the most important position, I think, for fantasy playoffs and the hardest one to keep players healthy, the running backs. You ready to lead off with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's start with the players that you should check to see that are out there, but may be hard to get. Isaiah Pacheco is 73% owned in most fantasy leagues. So, what's your thoughts on potentially looking at him as a waiver option this week? Not that he's going to be available in only about 1/4 of leagues.
Yeah, you definitely gotta look at him, but I would be looking at the other Kansas City Chief,
Jared McKinnon.
Jared McKinnon. Yeah, only owned in about 35% of leagues, and is kind of carving out a role as the pass catching back.
What's your thoughts on McKinnon? Is he actually going to be the main back in these upcoming weeks for fantasy playoffs? He doesn't feel like a long-term answer, but is he going to be viable enough over those 3 weeks to help you actually win your league championship?
It's hard to say. I mean, if he's a good stash piece, or if you're really hurting, you could do worse. Has some decent matchups coming up with the Texans, Seahawks, and Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that plays into his favor.
What about, I always hate this option, but Cam Akers? If he's available, he's owned in 64% of leagues. Are you looking at Cam Akers this week?
No, I don't want it.
I don't want him either. This is a big bear trap that you leave out for your opponent. Let
Yes.
him pick up Cam Akers. You do not want Cam Akers. And hopefully he's just not available and nobody has to think about him. Rachaad White may be available out there, 64% of leagues. You looking at Rachaad White, it was a little bit concerning with the Tom Brady-led offense this past weekend. Do you think he's still going to be very viable?
Yeah, down week, but I mean, Rachaad White still had some flex value, RB3 value. So yeah, I would go get him.
All right, now let's talk about players that are rostered quite a bit less than those top three. And one I actually like better than all of those options. Only owned in 41% of leagues. That's Bam Knight, the new leading running back of the Jets, at least for the rest of the season. He has been absolutely incredible for that team the last 3 weeks, coming off 17 rushes for 71 yards and a touchdown. Carter got 5 yards. Completely inept, wasn't used, fumbled, and I don't think they trust him. Do you see Bam Knight just getting all the work for the Jets going forward?
Yeah, if he's out there, just go get him.
He's easily, I think, a start, especially against the Lions this week. I could see him being a running back one this week. And if he's out there, he should be your number one priority at the running back position.
Yep, go get him.
Someone else that you could argue that could be the number one on this spot, though, too, although I would take Bam Knight by leaps and bounds, could be J.K. Dobbins. First 100-yard performance in quite a while, rostered in 59% of leagues. So what's your thoughts about this backfield with the injury to Tyler Huntley, Lamar Jackson potentially coming back eventually, and Gus Edwards getting a little bit of work back there?
Yeah, so I really like J.K. Dobbins, especially with Lamar Jackson injured. Came back, had a great game. But as another note onto that, if Dobbins isn't available, I like Gus Edwards too. Not owned in near as many leads, won't have as much fantasy value as J.K. Dobbins, but the Rams are going to use somewhat of a committee approach here. So I think Edwards has some flex value as well.
Just something I wanted to highlight on here really quick too. Jared McKinnon, as you already mentioned too, he's only rostered in 14% of leagues, so he's going to be highly available this week. So he's someone that you should easily be able to target and hopefully get one of these guys. So question going forward, Brian, who would you rather have for the upcoming week if Dobbins is actually healthy, him or Bam Knight? Who's got the higher waiver priority for you?
I think I'm going to go Knight. I am.
Okay, and here's some other names that could be stash guys according to some certain sources. What's your thoughts on Chuba Hubbard having a decent week this past week?
It's so up and down.
Very up and down.
You can't trust it. I don't trust it.
See someone that you'd at least put on your bench, though?
Yeah, it's possible. He could be that guy that we're talking about, just to have someone that has some value in case something happens.
Mm-hmm. And let's get real gross, and I mean exceptionally gross. What's your thoughts on Rex Burkhead if Dameon Pierce actually misses time?
Nope. Mm-mm.
No, not doing it?
Nope, I'm out.
Exceptional. I love it. All right, you ready to move on to the wide receivers for the fantasy playoffs?
Yes.
All right, first one. This is someone you look at potentially in very, very shallow leagues. Jerry Jeudy, 76% owned, but this would be very shallow leagues, correct?
Yeah, that'd be really shallow leads, and then you got to be a little nervous with the Russell Wilson injury.
Okay. What's your thoughts on Zay Jones this upcoming week? He's only rostered in 54% of leagues. I mean, he had a decent matchup a few weeks ago. It's been a little quiet as of late, but has that boom potential. Do you like Zay Jones for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yeah, just coming off a huge week against the Titans, 21 points. And like you said, against Baltimore had a big week, but was super quiet against Detroit. Yeah, I do like him. He does have some tough matchups coming up, though. He's got Dallas, the Jets, and Houston. Houston, not so much, but Dallas and Jets are tough matchups, but definitely worth a look on waiver wires.
So maybe someone to stash for your championship game?
Could be.
It's a nice matchup. You want to play anyone you can against the Texans, especially in championship games. All right, next player up on the list, someone who I am always deadly wrong about, DJ Chark. The last 2 weeks especially, I was not beating the drum for him, but you were. Only still rostered in 14% of leagues overall in most formats. So, again, are you rostering DJ Chark for the Detroit Lions, even though he's going up against the Jets this week?
No one listens to me, man. I'm in on DJ Chark.
Even with Jameson Williams out there?
Yep. He is probably like my top wide receiver waiver wire ad behind Donovan Peoples-Jones, even though I don't even think he's a waiver wire ad at this point. But
I mean, we've been beating that drum for 7-8 weeks. If he's out there, just freaking add him already. Like, you're not listening to us if that's the case.
Yes.
So what makes DJ Chark a piece of that offense? It's just a question I got to ask you, because it feels like the Lions have some weapons here. Like, what's making him something that's fantasy viable?
I don't know. I think he must just be like building a rapport with Jared Goff. But whatever it is, I'm in. Maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown is drawing so much attention now. It's opening things up. Okay. And then they got Hawkinson there now too. So it's spreading defenses out a little bit.
I guess.
I don't know.
I mean, Hawkinson's gone. That does help.
Oh yeah, duh. Hawkinson left the team.
You meant to say he was gone, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Brain fart.
Obviously, you're just really tired this morning.
Yes, very. I don't know why. I just know that's happening, and I'm all for it.
Okay, you believing in the Jameson Williams hype? Oddly enough, is rostered only in 90% of leagues and played in 90% of the snaps last week, but had that nice target for a touchdown last week. Is he going to creep up from that 90% and actually be a wide receiver 3 for fantasy rosters against a very tough Jets defense?
No. I mean, he only played 13 snaps. Like, just blown coverage. Something happened. I don't know, but I just don't think his percentage count isn't his snap count is not high enough yet to make him a fantasy dependable.
You may not see him be fantasy dependable this week, but are you keeping him on the bench to keep him away from other players if he explodes down the road? We kind of saw that breakout for Amon-Ra St. Brown, which helped win fantasy championships last year.
I don't know. If you have a team that sucks, that's not worth keeping any keepers on, go ahead and snag him and let him be your keeper for next year.
So you're not believing in the Jameson Williams hype for the playoffs or
not
the championship?
Nope.
Okay. What's your thoughts on a certain Jets receiver going up against the Lions? Elijah Moore with the injury to Corey Davis. Mike White seems to like him.
Yeah, I just doesn't.
I mean,
like
6 catches for 60 yards. It wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad, but then against Minnesota, only 3 points. But then you put up 14 versus Chicago. Yeah, it's possible. He would be pretty low on my priority list, I think.
I think so too, but listen to his next 3 matchups. They're pretty nice. He's got Detroit, the Jaguars, and the Seahawks. They're all very porous in the secondary. And Mike White should be able to take advantage of that. That could lead to some pretty decent matchups, especially if Corey Davis misses 2 to 3 weeks with that concussion. I think this is one that could be sneaky and could be a good way to round out your roster as a wide receiver 3 or a flex spot if you need one. Pay attention to Elijah Moore. And here are some guys that you could potentially stash, I guess, according to some sources. Donovan Peoples-Jones is out there, according to some. I don't think you're going to find him. Everyone has been beating that drum for 7 weeks. Absolutely ignore that. But if you happen to find and strike gold and he's there, frickin' pick him up. He is a great wide receiver for your roster. What's your thoughts for Demarcus Robinson, Ryan? Can you do it?
His targets have been there. Double digits in 3 of his last 4 games. I guess you could do it. I don't love it, but I could see the logic.
All right, let's get real gross. What about Isaiah Hodgins or Richie James for the Giants?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know who those guys are. I do know who Richie James is. He was like the only Giants wide receiver for a couple of weeks. But no, nope.
Neither one of them?
Nope.
Here's what I find interesting. What about Chris Moore, who had 22.4 fantasy points this past Sunday, and Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins are both banged up and could miss this upcoming weekend? Are you interested in Chris Moore just based on the volume?
Yeah. I guess it would be. I mean, you probably won't have a solid answer by the time the waiver wires happens. But if Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks are looking like they're going to be out again, he's worth a look.
All right, you ready to talk about the tight ends?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, now you need to look out there. Only owned in 3/4 of leagues. David Njoku, so 76% rostered. I think you could definitely add him if he's out there, but he's probably not going to be. So let's get into some more realistic options. Evan Engram, an absolute boss from this past week, going to make me apologize by the end of the season. Son of a bitch. 42% owned. He's out there. Is he the number 1 ad overall, Ryan, for fantasy this week, or are you believing in the hype?
I think so, just because when you see, we mentioned it in the previous episode, the tight end position's been rough this year if you're not a Travis Kelce owner. So yeah, I would be, if you have a tight end that's not very good, that's only getting like, I don't know, 5 to 10 points a game, go get Evan Engram. Like that's his floor.
Absolutely incredible. With that huge performance that he had this past weekend, which was an average of 39 points in most formats, he's only now behind Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and Hockenson.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Who would have thought? I sure didn't. I didn't even think he was going to start on his own team.
I know.
My God. The tight end position is really making me eat crow this week. Chi Okonuwaku. I butchered his name. I am so sorry. Athletic tight end for the Tennessee Titans. Gets on the field. Epic week. Only owned in 0.9% of rostered teams.
And I called it last week.
My God.
Called it last week.
Talk about him. I don't deserve to talk about him.
Yeah, so he's been targeted 16 times the last 3 games. Put up double-digit fantasy points the last 2. Yeah, I love it. If you don't have Engram out there, or if you don't have Engram or Njoku out there, I'm going to him.
Bonus points if you can pronounce his name right.
Ooh, yeah, I'm not gonna try. I'm just gonna.
Come on, do it for the heckling fandom.
I did it last week. They did look up last week's episode.
Don't want to cold takes on it. Chi Gozium Onowaku.
Why? Where are you throwing Onowaku? Why are you just throwing a random N in there after the O? There's a K in there.
Yeah, I know, right? Ryan, describe the next tight end for me as I turn off my camera because I've got a bloody nose.
Just punched yourself in the face for that awful pronunciation.
How do I turn off my camera so they don't have to look at it? Terrible. Hold on 1 second.
It's still on.
I know. I'm trying to turn it off, man. Absolutely terrible. Take over the tight end position for me.
We're a PG show. All right. Well, while Joe deals with whatever he's got going on there, we will break into the last tight end we have on our list, Tyler Conklin. Been targeted a ton by the Jets, 15 times in the last 2 games. Little lower on the scoring end. has a nice matchup against the Lions coming up. They've allowed the 5th most points to tight ends. So, like I said, if you're in tight end hell, it's worth giving Conklin a look. So, with that, I guess we will just move on without Joe to the quarterbacks. Talked about him briefly. Last episode, Jared Goff just put up an insane fantasy performance this past week. 26 points, I think, actually. They have the Jets and Panthers on the road, and then the Lions, and then they get the Bears at home week 17. So championship game could definitely be a solid game to have in the championship. They have a lot of offensive weapons right there. So he's definitely worth a look. Mike White, he has prior to this past week where he got injured, but that was against a very tough Bills defense, which I think everyone was kind of ready for. Has a really nice matchup against the Lions coming up. So
don't say I don't believe
just
in your
allowed-
heckling fandom. I go to work.
We were just talking about your boy Mike White.
Excellent.
So amazing matchup, week 15 against the Lions. It's almost like, yeah, if you're an owner that's just looking to get through next week, Mike White might be your guy.
You mean the Kyler Murray owner?
Yeah. Yep.
What about Tyler Heineke? Did you already talk about him?
We have not. Why don't you talk about him a little bit?
I don't know. Roster in 2% of leagues. I guess has some decent matchups going out there. He's on some lists, but I just really don't believe in him. I think there's obviously some better options out there. Obviously, if Trevor Lawrence is out there, but he's owned in 70% of leagues. He's decent. God, I guess if you want to go the route of Deshaun Watson, although he doesn't still look fantastic. Honestly, I think I'd believe in Brock Purdy in that very quarterback-friendly roster there for the 49ers as opposed to Heineke. So what's your thoughts on Purdy?
Yeah. So put up 20-something points against a supposedly solid Tampa Bay defense. It has to face the Seahawks. They've been giving up about 17 points to quarterbacks a game. So you should do worse. Then another name that we were hating on him at the start of this year, but has a decent matchup coming up. What do you think about Matt Ryan?
I mean, God, I
put up 22 against the Raiders, and then he has
yeah, but he did nothing in that first half. I'm just not overly confident in him.
Yeah, the Vikings defense though has been had by quarterbacks, so it's worth a look.
I'm struggling over here, as you can see.
Yeah,
I really work hard for you, heckling fandom. Just remember that.
But I think we're good on quarterbacks. So how about we jump into some possible defensive matchups?
Let's do it.
Just you gotta cover all positions.
I'm just gonna hang out over here and let you go over it, Ryan.
And just you just get your life over there together over there, Joe, and we'll take it from here.
I still show up for work.
Yep, see, dedication.
Remember that,
Ron. So I focused on defenses that weren't really as much owned, since you might be starting the waiver wire. Packers against the Rams. I like that. The Packers defense definitely hasn't been great this year, but against the Rams offense has just been decimated. I definitely think they're a solid start. The Cardinals defense against the Denver offense, who just lost Russell Wilson. Now, usually, I'd probably say start them even against Russell Wilson, but
I think that's an excellent matchup on the week.
Yeah, without Russell Wilson, that Cardinals defense, if you're looking at stream defenses, that's definitely a solid one to choose. The Saints defense. Where is the Saints defense? Why aren't they? Who are they playing?
Should be listed, right?
They should be, but they're not. Where'd they go?
Not on your list.
Oh, here they are. Saints defense faces Atlanta, who does not have Marcus Mariota.
Going up against a rookie.
Going up against a rookie, that should definitely be a strong matchup. Only owned about 18% of leads based on what I'm looking at. Then you also have the Washington Commanders against the Giants, who are in meltdown mode. Can we say it's meltdown mode at this point?
Yeah, it's straight meltdown mode.
Yeah, so they are in meltdown mode. Sunday night game. So that one would be worth a look. And lastly, the Carolina Panthers defense versus Pittsburgh, who just lost Kenny Pickett. So they're going to be playing. I don't know who do they got. What's his name?
What's his name is real helpful for the heckling fan.
Rudolph. It's not Mason Rudolph still, is it? Is it?
You tell me. I'm going to leave you hanging.
Okay. Well, anyway, they're going against someone that doesn't really matter a ton.
It's a former Bears quarterback.
Oh, Trubisky?
Mitch Trubisky.
Yep, going up against Trubisky. So JJ would say definitely don't start them, but I'm saying definitely start the Carolina Panthers versus Mitch Trubisky. And with that, I think we're closing out the episode. I'm hoping that Joe doesn't bleed out over there.
Yeah, no, just dying over here. No big deal.
You know,
too bad you can't see it in audio formats.
Do this as a solid PSA. Always go to your local Red Cross and donate blood. You never know when someone might need it. All blood types. Right now. All blood types. Make sure y'all do it. Get your little sticker. Maybe some free apple juice. And with that, I think we're good, Joe. What do you think?
Absolutely. And for me bleeding out for the heckling fan, make sure to like and subscribe to the show here on YouTube. You can also listen to us in audio formats on Apple, Spotify, Google, Pandora, Amazon, Iheartradio, Tunein. And for me being a clown, make sure to watch us on Twitch and Twitter. And you can leave voicemails at www.garbagetimeff.com. Make sure to like and subscribe to the show. And Ryan, how do you win that Miles Sanders card?
Like an episode, subscribe to our channel, leave us a Apple review, preferably 5 stars, and then comment. I joined the heckling fandom. # donate blood for Joe.
Absolutely. And I am not editing this because I'm sure it'll make great content for JJ's video, right?
Yeah, it should.
For the cold takes video, I'm sure he's definitely going to dive right into this one.
Only you.
Oh, God. Absolutely. Oh, God. Terrible. All right. On that note, I'm going to go clean myself up and donate more of my blood. All right, heckling fandom. Have a great night. Use the waivers. Go win your first week. And hopefully I don't have a tissue in the next episode. Have a great night.